I am your brother in Christ, and welcome to our new series that we'll be hitting on our illogical argument series. Yay! This seems to be a request because the poll I pulled last time showed me that at least some of you guys were interested in this. So we'll go ahead and do this one. So the point of this whole series that I'll be doing around it will be to focus on not the biblical arguments as much as just the logical arguments. Because if you're talking to an atheist, they're not going to care about the Bible scriptures you pull up. They will, however, respond better to your logical standpoints, at least as long as they think it through themselves. So that's really what I'm trying to do in this series, is give you guys some points to be able to argue against some pretty common catchphrases or go-tos that you might run into. So first of all, let's go ahead and define what abortion is, because that's what the topic is for today. Hey, DeCobra, welcome. So I define abortion as a medical procedure intended to end a pregnancy. This does not mean a miscarriage is abortion. I've heard people say that miscarriages are abortions. That's not what I'm referring to at all. Miscarriages aren't abortions. Miscarriages are a completely different thing. So I will not be talking about that topic. That's something completely separate. Okay, just wanted to clear that because I have a friend of mine who that was their standpoint, and I just wouldn't apply any of this to a miscarriage at all. So things are pretty good, the Cobra. We're getting started on the series. So let's go ahead and so good. Okay. Been putting this together. I know some other people have done things like this. In fact, I didn't know about it beforehand, but I know what you mean did it. So I looked at his video and I was like, oh, that's really good. I already decided to do it. I already had it planned. I just watched it today. So if you haven't seen his video, go check it out. He's got good arguments on his point. I'll be pulling up different references, but the goals are both the same. So obviously this is a really good idea because he's doing it. So, okay. So the first one on our list is it's not a baby. It's just a blob of cells. Abortion is just like cutting off an extra appendage or, cutting your fingernails. It's just not a big deal, right? No. If breaking this down, it's just a bunch of cells. Well, those bunch of cells are an independent being. Those bunch of cells have a possible future separate from you. Those bunch of cells can develop into something much more than you can ever hope to be. In fact, that's the wish of every parent, is that bunch of cells will change the world. So no, it's not just a bunch of cells. It's a bunch of cells that have a potential that may even overshadow your own. Like I said, as a parent, you hope it does. So no, it's not a bunch of cells. It's not just like cutting your fingernails. It's changing the future and the path that child may yet take, be it for good or for evil. That's for them to decide. So, second one, the fetus doesn't have any memories. You won't even know it died. Well, is that the measure of a person? Is your memories all you are? Are you nothing more than a collection of your memories? And there are some people that argue that they're nothing more than the memories that are in their brain. So if you were to have amnesia, would it be right for me to kill you? Would it be right for me to kill you? Sorry about that. My wife just said I need to stop moving around so much so my camera stops refocusing. So I'm going to try to do that. So would it be right for me to kill you if you had amnesia? If you just forgot everything, would it be right for me to kill you? That's the question. If you're nothing more than your memories, then what are you really? Number 3, if you're truly pro-life, that would mean that a woman having a period or a man masturbating is an abortion. No. In fact, this is a really bad mischaracterization of the pro-life stance. I have never heard anyone argue that every egg a woman ever has is a baby, or that every sperm in a man's body is a baby. No. It's not even until fertilization happens, till conception. They aren't their own separate thing yet. So no, and again, it's mischaracterization of what we are actually standing for. They aren't human until they are born, until they take their first breath. Well, I have some issues with that. Really? So if you're not human until you take your first breath, then what about when you're breathing inside the womb? Do you have to have oxygen to do it? Because if you have to have oxygen in order to be a human, then all that breathing really doesn't matter much. So if I go underneath the water, am I now not a human? Have I given up my humanity because I've stopped breathing? Someone who needs CPR, is that someone that I could just shoot? Can you kill them if they're not breathing? Or is that still murder? Because I'm pretty sure if someone stops breathing and I could give them CPR and I instead shoot them in the head with a gun, that's still classified as murder. So that first breath really doesn't gauge what we are as far as if we're living or not. Women have the moral right to decide what they do with their bodies. Really. So let me ask anyone with a second grade education, how many fingers does a woman have? How many toes? How many legs? Arms? Hearts? Noses? Ears? Or even brains? If you answer the brain question as being 2, you're an idiot. You also might be pro-choice. But I repeat myself. But no, we only have one brain. If you're pregnant or not, you still only have one brain. In fact, even with the blood in your veins, you can have different blood types between you and your child. My wife, who is lovely and in the comments and always such a great woman, she has a different blood type than I do. She's O negative, I'm O positive. All of our kids are O positive. She had to get special shots when she was pregnant in order to prevent her body from attacking the next kid in line because of the different blood types. And as my wonderful wife's shirt says, it's not your blood. It's not your body. No, it is your kid. So the next one in line, pro-lifers are hypocrites. Why would we only save human lives, not all lives? Well, really? Are you saying that all lives, as it refers to plants, animals, parasites, are all the same? Are you saying that they're all equal? Because if you're saying that they're all equal, then the only way you can guarantee that you're not going to be killing other lives is if you die yourself immediately. Because every breath you take, you are killing something. Every time you walk through the grass, you could potentially be killing a blade of grass. So are you really saying that a blade of grass's life is equivalent to a baby's life or a human's life? If your answer is, well, no, then this argument really doesn't apply. Next one on the list. So pro-lifers don't want to add more gun laws, but yet we want to make abortion illegal, thinking that'll stop abortion. Well, first of all, those are two different arguments. Secondly, you're making an assumption that I am pro-gun. I actually am. So it does actually apply in this situation. But as far as being inconsistent, I disagree. I believe that we all have the right to self-defense. I do not want to see an innocent person who has decided to do no harm to another individual, who is forced into that situation for their own life, lose it. I'd rather them be able to defend themselves. So I don't want to see the innocent die. In the same way, with abortion, I don't want to see the innocent die. It's not inconsistent. It's actually being consistent. So going on to number 8. The right to an abortion is vital for gender equality. Again, that's never made much sense to me, because if the man wants to have the woman have an abortion, he cannot force the woman to have an abortion, but the woman can have an abortion if the man wants it or not. So, tell you truthfully, the only way to have equality would be for no abortions to be allowed at all. Because let's be honest, if a guy forces a woman to have an abortion, we all agree that that's wrong. But at the same time, if the woman has the right to something that the guy doesn't, that's not equality. So going on to the next one, the right to an abortion is vital for the woman to achieve her full potential. Really, to achieve her full potential. She must have an abortion to achieve her full potential. You know, to be a clown on Sunday Night Live or something like that, you know, full potential. Well, let's really. So if something's getting in, according to this logic, do you mean if something gets in your way, you can just get rid of it? So if you're saying that your 2-year-old kid is getting away for you achieving your full potential, that you can go ahead and get rid of your 2-year-old kid. If the answer is no, you're not a piece of crap. And that's where it really, that argument really falls apart when you actually think it through. So are most of these. The right to abortion is vital. Oh, well, I already did that one. Sorry, I had to scroll down. Banning abortion puts women at risk by forcing them to use illegal abortionists. Well, I don't really have an issue with that. Abortion is just one of the many options. There are many, many options out there. Adoption is one. It's a fantastic one. I love adoption. But abortion, another one is to grow up, be an adult. Take responsibility for your decisions. Don't take the easy way out. But no. If they choose to illegally go and get an abortion, I don't have a problem with that being risky. Tell you truthfully, everything's risky. All abortions are risky. This being slightly more risky, so what? If you're going to murder a kid, I don't have a problem with that. Okay, well, bye-bye to Cobra. Thank you for jumping in, at least. I know I'm doing it a day late, but whatever. I'm sorry. Things with kids came up yesterday. If you guys have comments, go ahead and leave them in the discussion. I can star them and come back to them at the end when we do our Q&A. So, okay. The right to abortion should be part of any portfolio of pregnancy rights that enable women to make a truly free choice whether to end in a pregnancy. I don't care. And this argument really doesn't make any sort of sense, although this is one that I've found pretty commonly. I don't care if your platform says that you should be able to kill your child. Really shouldn't. So if your platform says, in order to obtain this sort of freedom, you have to do X. Let's say X is slavery. In order to obtain your freedom, you have to enslave someone. No, that's not right. Not right at all. 11. The Supreme Court has decided abortion to be a fundamental right guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. Well, if you know what Roe v. Wade actually says, it's a little shaky. It's a little shaky. It's very, very drawn out. It's very, you have to bend over backwards and close your eyes to hopefully try to see it right in order to see it in the light they used it. But let's say that they do. Let's say that the Supreme Court says point blank, it's a woman's right, they can do it. And it's guaranteed by the Constitution. Well, let's see. Has there ever been in this nation something that was considered a right of an individual that we later realized was a really, really bad thing? Could that be something like, have something to do with black people in chains? It's just a little bit of slavery. Yeah, just in some states. I mean, it was legal there. The Supreme Court didn't say anything about that until we fought a war over it. And then things changed. So no, just because the Supreme Court says something is legal and right does not make it legal and right. No matter what authority you are, if it's wrong, it's wrong. So, next one, 13. Personhood begins after a fetus becomes viable, as qualified as being able to survive outside the womb after birth. Not at conception. Really? So this term viable. Now this is really where this one falls apart, is the term viable. And if you're going to argue anyone on this, you need to focus on viable. Because viability has changed. A fetus in downtown cities, which is right next to the hospital, their viability is much, much earlier than the viability of a child in, let's say, middle of nowhere, West Virginian mountains, where you have to drive 2, maybe 4 hours to the nearest hospital. Viability changes. So your geographic location changes if you are a viable person or not, if you're a viable fetus or not. So does that determine your personhood? And what does viable mean? Does the viable mean, in this case, they said it was able to survive outside the womb, but really, let's say a 3-month-old baby survive outside the womb without any help? No, absolutely not. Can a 2-year-old? Can my 2-year-old son survive without his parents, his grandparents, no one else around? Can he survive? No. So does that mean that my 2-year-old son is not viable? What about 5-year-olds? Maybe some, maybe not. So that term viable can be pushed out much further. And this is where it really needs to be defined. And this is where it really gets scary. Because if you define it as being viable or not, you're now looking at maybe that 13-year-old can't survive on their own. Maybe there needs to be a viability check. Or maybe you should just be allowed to kill your kids up till they're 13, maybe 14. Even some kids can't survive on their own when they're 20. That's when you should be able to kill them. No, we would have a problem then. You can see how flawed that argument is pretty quickly when you start taking it to its logical extremes. It's what we really need to do. We need to take these arguments and stretch them to the most extreme cases and see, okay, would these still apply? What else could they apply to? And that's when they really fall apart quite quickly. Fetuses are incapable of feeling pain when most abortions are performed. Well, that qualifier, most, is a bit of an issue because they mean that some of them are. So are you saying if they're able to feel the pain, then the abortion shouldn't happen? And if they can't feel pain, then you're fine ending their life. You're fine aborting them. Well, there are some people who are born with medical condition that keeps them from being able to feel pain. Should we allow them to be killed? Should you be allowed to end their life? No, that would make no sense at all. Next one, 15. Women receiving abortions are less likely to suffer mental illness problems than women denied abortions. This one's just not right. This one's just absolutely false. There are so many women who are having mental issues after having an abortion that there are clinics set up solely to treat them. There's a mental problem whenever you kill your own child. And it's not something that pro-choice people talk about. Pro-life people do. But pro-choice people do not talk about the mental side of having your child die inside of you. So no, that one's, there are plenty of studies out there to find that. So no. Abortion gives pregnant women the opportunity to choose not to bring fetuses with profound abnormalities to full term. Now, this one is shockingly common, believe it or not. When my wife and I were in the hospital, they asked to do some tests to see if our child would have Down syndrome. And that's solely to find out if we want to do an abortion. If they have Down syndrome, they would then offer us an abortion. So in this case, are you saying that if someone has profound abnormality, that they shouldn't be alive? That they're better off dead? Are you saying that you have the right to decide if they should live or not based upon a condition that they have not yet been able to survive or been able to experience? And there are plenty of people with Down syndrome with profound abnormalities that live great lives, that have helped change the world. You know, if you don't have an arm, is that profound enough? If you're going to be born without a leg, is that profound enough? Should people without legs be killed? Should we just kill anyone that has any abnormality, any imperfections at all? The answer is no, that would be stupid. Women who are denied abortions are more likely to become unemployed to be on public welfare, to be below the poverty line, and to become victims of domestic violence. See, if you don't allow them to have abortion, then they're going to be victims of domestic violence. No, not necessarily. It's a real stretch to say because you don't get to have an abortion, then they're just going to be victims of domestic violence. They could have great lives. In fact, when it comes down to it, it was their choice, unless you're talking about rape or incest or any of that stuff. It was their choice to have unprotected sex, so they chose this path. And as I've talked about multiple times, through adversity, we grow. So, was it the best choice? No, I don't think so. But no, not necessarily. You're not lumping all people who don't have abortions into this classification. And I would say that more than just mothers, because it could be the mother and father who are still together. You can't just clump them all together and say, hey, they're just going to be abused because you didn't allow them to have abortions. In incest, my wife points out, in incest is also a choice unless they were, it's also rape. Yes. So next one in line, we're up to 18. We're getting through these, plugging way through these. A baby should not come into this world unwanted. So they should just die. That's the silent part. The should just die part is the silent part of that. So if a kid is unwanted, they shouldn't come into this world. Let's apply that. So if you don't want a 2-year-old anymore, and the kid is unwanted, should that kid just die? Should you be able to kill anyone that's unwanted? Because there's a long list of people I know about that are unwanted. Is it right that people should just kill them? No. That doesn't make any sense. You should definitely want your kid, first of all, but even then, if you believe that they're going to be unwanted, that's a problem with you more than the kid. So why should the kid have to pay for your shortcoming? Abortion reduces crime. Again, you're making a lot of assumptions here. Basically, this is what you're looking at is selectively killing groups of people in order to reduce things. So I know someone else that used this. Eugenics. He's called Adolf Hitler. He kind of used this on his war against Jews, against anyone that was born a cripple, against anyone he didn't like. He used this to purify the race so they wouldn't become unwanted, so they wouldn't become criminals. Or as this next one, because I got ahead of myself, abortion is justified as a means of population control. Again, if they're unwanted, you just get rid of them. Be it through abortion or through the gas chamber. The result is the same. And at what time do you need to? Because if your whole goal is population control, then who cares if they're 5, 6, 7, 18, 25? If they're unwanted and you need to control your population, then just get rid of them. Just kill them. Can't believe that website actually had that as justification for abortion. This comes from a pro-choice website, is where I got most of these. At least those last 4 or 5 were all from there. Okay. Many religious organizations and people of faith support women's reproductive choice. I don't care. They are wrong. You can't tell me that just because this one group says it's right doesn't mean it's right. Looking back at that example again, a large group of the South said slavery was right. In fact, most of the world said slavery was right. It's still wrong, no matter what. I don't care if 90% of the people say that they should be allowed to enslave other people. It's still wrong. I don't care if there's 90% of Christians would agree that, hypothetically speaking, that slavery is right. I would still disagree. It is still wrong. Even if the majority says, well, that's the way it should be. 22, and this is the most common one we've run into. Most common one I've ever heard of. What about rape and incest? Well, what about rape and incest? They're wrong. They shouldn't be allowed. The criminals should be punished. I would be fine with quartering. If you know what that is historically, it is gruesome. But rapists being quartered? I can get behind that. But why should you end a child's life if you were raped or if it was a incest? What if the child's standing right here who's 5 years old and he's a product of being rape? He's a product of rape right there, 5 years old. Does that give you the right to kill him? Is he allowed then? And this whole argument is nothing but a red herring. It's just to muddy the waters. Because if you were to just simply say, okay, so are you fine with banning abortion with the exception of rape and incest? And if their answer is no, I'm not fine with that, then this argument doesn't matter because they're not willing to go to that. They're just going to the extreme to try to get you to agree with them. And even in this extreme, I would again disagree. And I know that's not a popular choice, but it's the truth. I don't see there being a point to punish an innocent child who has done nothing for the sins of the parents. So, yeah, never made much sense to me. No one should be forced to have a human living inside them. You make it sound like they're a parasite. You make it sound like you had no choice in the matter. And again, with the exception of rape, you definitely did. It takes two to tango. And you definitely tangoed at least once. So you chose this path. You just have buyer's remorse. And just because you have buyer's remorse doesn't mean you get to get rid of the kid or kill the kid. That doesn't justify it. So let's apply this. Let's stretch it out. 3 years down the road, I have a child who's dependent on me because he can't live on his own. And I just, no longer want this. So I don't want to be forced to take care of this kid. Does that allow me to kill them? And the answer is no. That is called murder. No. So, don't like abortion? Don't get one. Again, I could have seen this as used in another way. Don't like slavery? Don't get one. You don't have to own a slave. Yeah, but it's still wrong. just because I don't participate in it doesn't mean I should be silent about it. Because if I am passive, I'm still affected by it. If you're a Marvel fan, you think of Spider-Man, standing off to the side while the robber goes by him in like every beginning Spider-Man movie ever, or most comics. And letting the robber go right by him. He has a part in that. He could have stopped him. But through his inaction, it led to his uncle dying. So inaction is an action. And if you allow, you could use this for rape. Don't like rape? Don't have one. No, rape is still wrong. You should be drawn and quartered. My opinion. A man can't talk about abortion. This is actually surprisingly pretty common and extremely sexist. It is amazingly sexist because it is because of your sex, you're denied an opinion on this. And again, what about the fathers? They were part of this whole process too. What if they want to have a kid? They don't get equal rights, that's for sure. In fact, even the court systems, most of them are against them. So should men have a right to talk about? Yeah. Again, if you want to draw this back to slavery, you definitely can. Using this saying, hey, a non-slave owner shouldn't have an opinion about slavery. If you don't own one, don't have an opinion. In fact, I'm pretty sure that was an argument. We're on 26. We're getting towards the end. At long last, 40 minutes into this thing. I would never personally get an abortion, but I would never tell anyone else that they shouldn't get an abortion. Why not? Do you believe that abortion is wrong? If you believe that abortion is murder and that it is wrong, that it is a child, and that's the reason why you don't want to get an abortion, then your silence is again standing by the wayside and letting the robber run through and going and killing Uncle Ben. You're still contributing to it, even if you think that you're impartial. You still have a part in it. If you're anti-abortion, then you should be willing to support the child yourself. That doesn't make any sense at all. Because I'm unwilling to support my child, you should be willing to support him. If you don't, what do you mean use this? So I can't claim it for myself. But I think he really did answer this perfectly. If I don't want to support my child, then I can't threaten to kill him unless you support him. So either you support him or I kill my child. No. That's illegal. And now you are going to jail. Goodbye. That again makes no sense. Not everyone has the same moral rules. No one gets to impose their morality on anyone else. Really? Is it true? No one. Morals don't matter. I can't push my morality on you. No one should be allowed to push their morality on anyone else. There should be no laws, because that's definitely pushing morality. By definition, laws are what we have stated is moral and immoral. You're not allowed to have sex with underage minors. That's considered moral and immoral. You know, you're not allowed to murder people. You're not allowed to rape people. That's considered immoral. I would definitely consider that very, very moral. I would consider that very, very immoral, raping someone. But according to this logic, that's not immoral. You can't force your morality on me. It's not killing. It's preventing the creation of a human life. Really? What is a human life? Can you define a human life? First breath, we already proved that doesn't work. Because if I stop breathing, I'm still a human. I'm still me. Heartbeat, my heart stops beating. I'm still a human. I may be really close to death if I don't get my heart going again, but I'm still human. So, preventing creation of human life. So, when is that human life? What defines it? That's the follow-up question. What defines it? So, if you're really preventing human life, then don't have sex to begin with. It works 99.9% of the time. There is one exception I know of. And that was under very different circumstances. A child would be happier if its mother wanted it. Therefore, it would be better for the mother to abort it. This really goes to the root of pursuing happiness above all others. The only thing that matters is happiness. So if you're not happy, then you shouldn't be alive. That's basically what this is saying. If the child's not happy, then it shouldn't be alive. Let me tell you straight off the bat. A lot of times, children aren't happy. They cry a lot. Does that mean every time a child cries, it should be legal to kill him? Again, the obvious answer to this is no. It is better to have the child aborted than for it to be mentally disabled. Again, this goes back to eugenics, weeding out the weak, because we don't want to give you a chance to live. And let's be honest, that is very anti-American. Because, you know what? Sometimes the weak, through pushing, through adversity, become strong. And I bet you if you ask any person who is mentally disabled, if they wish they were rather dead, they wish their mom would have killed them to begin with, that they were never born, if you want to be politically correct, that they were never born. You'll be hard-pressed to find someone. In fact, most of them, even referring back to the happiness question, most of those people are actually really happy. Most of them are. Some of the most joyful people I've ever met have been people who are mentally disabled. My wife asked about the happiness question. Does that mean every time I cry, my husband should kill me? No. No. Absolutely not. Yuck. No. No, 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 no. And 33. We are almost done. This is the last one. Thank goodness we survived to the end. You shouldn't have a child if you can't afford it. You shouldn't have a child if you can't afford it. If you're poor, you should just get rid of your child. Yeah. You should just kill your children. If you're poor, take Billy out to the backyard, load up the shotgun. Yeah, you're poor. You just financially have to do it, right? That's justification right there. If you can't afford it, just get rid of the kid. Again, my wife and I, we weren't all financially stable when my son came along. In fact, we were in a very big uproar as far as our finances go when my wife got pregnant. So could I afford it? I ended up affording it. I made it work. I made it work. But was it financially easy? No. Are children really expensive? Yes. If your finances are justification for you to be able to kill your child, every parent would be able to kill their child without any reason at all, other than they cost too much. That is no justification. So if you know more pro-choice arguments that you want me to tackle, please leave them in the description below. I'm going to go ahead and get that set up. Okay. So again, because I love my wife, and she is truly, truly epic, I don't have it up anymore. Oh no! I made mistakes. I do have it up. Why isn't it coming up? There it is. Oh, it's just not coming up on there. Okay. She has wonderful merch that she keeps up. In fact, some of this merch revolves around the topic that we were talking about today, about abortion and pro-life. So she has the Unborn Are Alive t-shirts with an ultrasound of my second born. My body, not my blood, not my body, not my blood. My baby. I'm sorry, I misspoke again. I keep doing that on this. My baby, not my body, not my blood t-shirts, which goes back to her having a different blood type than our child, which was really eye-opening because I didn't know that was a thing. But it does make sense. So she's got all those t-shirts. She's got the Unborns Alive t-shirts. She's got mugs of the Unborn Are Alive. So you can be pro-life and pro-mug. When you drink your coffee. She's got all those on there. The link to that is in the description. I hope I updated it. I'm pretty sure I did. It's under merch. And then you can follow the link there and see all those wonderful banners and t-shirts and mugs. And she has a whole bunch of stuff on here. Oh my goodness, all over the place. She even got babies. That is awesome. Baby onesies. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I think we are the only ones on here, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it on up. So I normally do a Q&A, but I don't think it is necessary at this point because I think we've addressed everything as we've gone on. So next, we will be talking about the tyranny of the unvaccinated on Wednesday, followed by Mohammed. Is Mohammed an anti-Semite? So we'll hit those topics and continue on through. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.